Welcome to the Trade Legends Podcast, Season 6, Episode 1. We've got Mr. MJ Tiff in the house and a brand new guest.
James from Horsepower Decorations.
Tell us all about yourself, James.
Firstly, big thanks for coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Mark putting you on the spot. Yeah, so the sort of thing that we do with the Trade Legends is we get people on from different trades, different backgrounds, and we sort of like to quiz you.
Interrogate you.
Oh, it is a bit of an interrogation tonight because it's just the
Yeah, it's a new format, isn't it?
Yeah. So we thought we'd get you on. Obviously, we sort of look at people's social media and we look at the types of things that they do, they achieve. Obviously, you came to sort of my attention because I was like, every year with the On The Tool stuff, I always go, I wonder who won all the categories. Let's have a little look through. And that's how I sort of stumbled across your page and thought, you know what, actually, it's good to get people on who've had a bit of recognition in their industry.
Yeah, of course.
And to just sort of chat about how they got started. So I'm going to go over to you. Give us a little backstory.
I appreciate the gentle introduction.
That was a bit,
ease me in.
That was a bit more of a.
That was a kind way of doing it. Thank you.
Unlike Mark.
He's your mate now.
First.
He was setting you up 10 minutes ago.
So yeah, I mean, it's great to get any real recognition in this line of work. I mean, in the trade, you don't really tend to get much recognition. So for us to, we were shortlisted in 2022 for the On The Tools Decorator of the Year. Didn't quite make it. Got pipped to the post by who was it now? Georgie Baker, who does the work for change rooms and stuff like that.
Right.
He's a great lad, to be fair. But 2023 came back, won it. Won Purdy Mentor of the Year last year as well. So that's another nice achievement to have.
Do they do they ask you to go into the nominations for it, or do you have to put yourself up, or does someone put you up?
So other people put you forward.
Right,
You can nominate yourself, but it's a bit
do that.
A bit arrogant.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So I did it only about 73
right.
different times off different email addresses.
Podcast of the year next year, boys.
So yeah, I mean, other people put us forward and had customers who did it. Obviously, once we'd already had that in 2022, it was nice to be put forward again for 2023, and it was nice. Obviously, you know, the competition is what it is, but everyone who's there deserves to be there. You know, any sort of recognition is great, and everyone who was in my category, I would consider to be a friend.
How many get shortlisted in each category?
Well, I don't know how truthful this is, but I did hear that apparently the decorating one has got the most entries. So I had about 360 entries, something like that. Yeah. And it was shortlisted to, I believe, 5 people this year or 6 people.
Yeah. Because even that, like on its own, obviously when you're up against 5 people, the one thing that I will give on the tools, because we've won an award there as Unilight before, is the whole evening's done quite well.
It's great.
It looked mega. It looked really good.
Evening.
You know, because I met Dave from Nipex there. I met Kev from Metabo.
Yeah.
So I've got to meet a load of different people.
It's great for networking.
Yeah. So I
great
think from that side, it's a real good event.
Yeah, and it's a great night out as well. I mean, who doesn't love a free dinner and loads of free beer? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it did look brilliant. You know, the way they put it together and that looks mega.
It's a really good night, and it's a privilege to be there. It's like I said, any sort of recognition is something.
Where was it at? Villa Park?
Edgbaston Cricket Ground. So about the only time I'll ever go there. But
darts we're doing next, isn't it?
Is it?
No, we were talking about darts earlier. Never been into darts, but I fancy going to watch the darts. It looks great.
I'd do it. I think
my sister's done it.
Looks just a laugh, doesn't it?
She's done the darts. So who sponsored the category as well? Because there's loads of, just to give people a bit of a backstory with the awards.
Yeah.
So you get shortlisted, but each category also has a sponsor as well, doesn't it?
Each category has its own sponsor. So our category, being the paint and the decorating category, had Armstead, which is a branch of Dulux. So that was sponsored effectively by Dulux Trade.
Yeah.
And so there is a bit of a cash prize as well, so you do get a bit of money afterwards, which is obviously great. But just to have the recognition is something in itself. So.
I mean stuff like that as well. Because who did we have on? Who's the guy from Scotland now? I'm going to really irritate myself and try and remember. Was it Keel's Joinery? He was a Scot.
Yeah.
With Jodie. He's got a girlfriend's Jodie.
Yes. Was he? Did he win the Screwfix one, didn't he?
Screwfix Tradesman of the Year.
Yeah.
Or Apprentice of the Year.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it Keel's Joinery?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Keel's Joinery. And obviously for him, he was saying when he won that, obviously all of a sudden you get a bit more recognition, and then you seem to just continue.
It will carry on growing.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say though is it's a bit of a pressure as well, because I feel like now people will probably be even more keen to kind of catch you out if you were, because customers, might see it as he thinks he's the best out there, but it's not good enough for me. So
I see. I look at it from the other way, is that it's a bit of kudos when you do go in. Obviously, not that you go in and I'm the painter of the year. Do you know what I mean? But I
only drop it into conversation like 3 or 4 times as I'm
just when you're quoting the job.
Yeah.
But I just think also as well, if you're looking to potentially win some work, and then somebody looks and goes, "Oh, he's painter of the year."
Yeah,
it's that.
Yeah, of course. And
if it's you and somebody else,
if they look on the website and they see, we've won quite a few regional awards. We obviously, that's the first sort of national UK wide one that we've won. So it does give you that little bit of like,
I think
weight
only you, because you critique your own work, would sit there and think in your head, oh God, they're going to think his work wasn't
Yeah, but it's also like, I want to, perhaps that's the wrong way to put it, but you've always got to make sure that you're
improving
as best as you can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
because I think that one of the good things about having you on is that I think a lot of people, they think, oh, what's the point in these? But actually, if you were, I don't know the full story for you, but if you talk us through what's happened since, is that, you go and do this, you get the recognition, then maybe other brands start looking to do things with you, and then you get asked to come to things like this.
Yeah, of course, I mean, you've got to just consistently put yourself out there, haven't you, to some extent, and especially if you're trying to like grow a brand or develop your business. If you're at the start of your career, then obviously try and put yourself out there as much as possible, because that's the only way that you're going to grow and you're going to maximise your potential, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, do you like, because we talk about social media a lot on here, and I get some people go, oh, all you do is bang on about social media, but I wouldn't have found your page without it. I might have seen it on the Tools winners, but I wouldn't have been able to look at your work or the types of things that you do, or the types of jobs that you're doing.
And you know what? That's why social media is great, because sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. Sorry, again, back to what I was saying. That's why social media is so great, though, because in terms of advertising, you can do a lot of advertising where you pay a lot of money and you don't see a lot of reward from it. Instagram is obviously free, and people can look at your work, they can see what you're doing, see if it's the type of thing that lines up with what they might like to do, get an idea of like the ethos and whatever of your business. They can also
see what you're like as well.
And see what you're like, and potentially, especially if you're including yourself in videos and stuff like that, they can see.
Gives that little personal touch as well, doesn't it?
Is that someone that I'd like to see in my house, or is this kind of, you might see someone kind of acting up a bit and they might think, you know what, that's not someone that I'd like to see.
You've got to be, it depends which way your social media wants to go, doesn't it? There are specific people and trades that go that route, and do people look at that and go, do I want that person in my house? You're right there.
Sorry, Brad, Home Improvements.
Get out the house, Brad. House. But you are right. It is a massive online portfolio and representation, and there are trades that make it really, top notch. That all we're doing is putting on what we do. We're putting no background to it.
Yeah, and like I said, it's free, so it's literally win-win. If you've got the time to upload a few photos to your Instagram, a few videos, it doesn't take long to make a reel, like just so people get a bit of a vibe of what you're doing. We only sort of got into the social media stuff probably in the past couple of years, really.
A lot of people have. It's weird. I find that the people that have recently got into it, COVID, seem to have done a lot better than some of the people that have been around for longer.
Yeah,
because it's almost like, I think that COVID part, when you did have a bit more time to dedicate, people were really on it.
Yeah,
and some
people
took
it to the next level.
Some people's growth was just like that. It was absolutely phenomenal. But I've gone off piece there, off Nathan's topics. What other topics you got, Nath?
Well, let's start from how you got into it then. Let's take it right back.
Yeah, I mean, I always say I fell into decorating completely by chance. You
didn't try and do another trade first, because we've had a few people.
Do you know what? When I first left school, I thought I was going to be a plumber. I did. I went and did a bit of work experience.
You've had a lucky escape.
I know. I did a bit of work experience with a local firm who I'll tell you later. You probably know him. Can I say it on air?
Yeah.
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 And so basically, the long and the short of it.
We could have somebody knocking at the door.
No. I know you mean.
Give them my address. So I went and did about I think about a month of completely unpaid work experience, and I had a friend who'd already gotten an apprenticeship there, and I thought by doing this I'd get onto an apprenticeship, and they turned around and said, after the I think it was a month, 6 weeks of turning up every day, 5 days a week, completely unpaid.
Was this straight from school?
This is straight from school,
okay.
16 years old. And they said, basically, the apprenticeship programme's kind of full for this year, but if you can stick around, we'll get you on the programme for next year. And I'm thinking, do I want to do a year of unpaid work experience?
Especially
they still wanted you to go?
And I was like...
Especially at 16.
Nah, I don't think so. So I just basically told them where to go. And then I started, picked up a brush and started painting.
Ladies and gents, just a quick one to say a huge thank you to our new headline sponsor, CT1, the best sealants on the market, voted for by the British public. Not only that, it's made in Britain as well. So go and support a product and a brand that is made in the UK. But I just want to say to you, they've got a brand new product out, which is the BT1. It's a combination sealant and adhesive like the popular CT1, but it's perfect for keeping a hygienic environment. And it's designed to completely stop the growth of bacteria, microbes, and fungus. And not only that, this stuff is strong. Now, it's going to be available at Travis Perkins, Wickes, Jewson's, and pretty much everywhere else, so there's no excuse not to go and give it a go. So we're really happy to be partnering with CT1.
Do you know what, though? I always had this, this preconceived idea of how glamorous plumbing and heating was, until one job where we went to this old boy's house and he blocked his toilet, and instead of doing something about it, he'd continue to use it for quite some time. And the job was for us and me as the apprentice to basically carry this toilet out onto the lawn and empty the contents of it onto the lawn. And it was kind of at that point where I thought, it's not actually as glamorous as what I thought.
Bit of that is horrific.
It's this point where he knew he fucked up.
But it's every bit of that. It's getting the toilet uncoupled with all that shit and crap round it, then picking it up, carrying it down with it in. So every bit of it.
It wasn't the most glamorous of days.
And that is why we do what we do.
I know.
I was waiting for you to go, Andy Cam, that is why
I love plumbing.
It's like, that is not why anyone loves plumbing.
It's very...
Have you had one of those?
We did a job.
Is that like an initiation, is it?
I think everyone's done this.
Like the hazing thing.
Yeah, everyone's sort of been... even like if you're an apprentice, someone will get the phone call, we've got a really shitty bunged up bog, get the apprentice in. It's like a rite of passage. I did it, there was a house and it was a council house.
So you're going to talk, I did it with my own time.
Carried it outside. Flushes away, mind us. We went to this house and it was a council house, and I think the guy died in it or something, whatever. We had to clean the house out. So we've gone upstairs to where the toilet is. Yep, fine. The guy's called me, I want to do my apprenticeship with. He goes, Mark, come downstairs and have a look. So I've gone into the garden. So the bathroom's here. The soil pipe's on the outside of the house. The soil pipe's bust off halfway down. So where the toilet was, the pipe's coming through the wall, must have been bust for 6 months. So whenever the guy's in there doing what he does in there, having his shit, flushing it, it's just shooting straight out the back. There's a pile, literally a pile of shit in his garden, where he's just been flushing it.
What did you have to do with that?
Well, we stripped everything out, got fumigators in.
Did you have to bring sucker turd and get them to come?
Dynarod, got them out. But yeah, the grounds people sorted that out because we went, look, once it leaves that toilet, mate, that's your problem. But yeah, it was literally just firing straight out the back of the house.
At least it wasn't neighbour's conservatory. So
no,
that's
it was just a big pile in his garden.
You got another story? Somebody trying to turn neighbour's conservatory.
So that put you off. Plumbing then.
Well, it didn't put me off. I think the fact that I was sort of strung along a little bit and not offered an apprenticeship at the end of what I deem to be, a good period.
Judging by those stories, you've had a lucky escape.
Do you know what? Yeah. I feel like maybe I have. To be fair. Looking at the terror in your eyes, reliving that story.
But they're like the coming of age. You get them a few times. I've not been to a really.
How big
really
was this
bad.
pile of excrement? Was it like the Jurassic Park?
Yes.
Where the Stegosaurus is ill?
Probably 2 foot high, just a map, because it's going to hit the same spot every time. Just built up like that, perfectly. As it hits the top, it goes down. It was as bad as what you think in your mind it's going to look like. That's how it was.
Picture it,
yeah,
and it was 10 times worse.
It was that, yeah.
So you had a lucky escape from plumbing.
I did have a lucky escape from plumbing. I think I did.
You then picked up a brush.
Yeah, the old lady wanted you out of the house, so you had to go and get a brush.
Exactly. So I kind of just fell into decorating. I got a job. Did the first half of my apprenticeship with one company. Then we had the recession in 2008, was it? I think.
Yeah.
So that company went bust. Did the second half of my apprenticeship with a different company, and stayed on with them for quite some time. Then branched out by myself. Started my own business 12 years ago. And the rest is history, really.
How did you pick your work up to start with?
Well,
was there like a transition from?
Because it's very different to now. Is obviously you've got Facebook groups,
Yeah.
you've got local groups, you've got
I think
the internet's been a blessing for trades.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you're trying to start a business, you're trying to grow your presence or whatever you want to call it.
Sorry.
The amateur hour over here.
Which is your best tool then for finding business?
I'd say word of mouth, and also vans. That's one thing that obviously we got 5 vans and my truck, and
if you're always out
and you're always out and about and all around town, and people always say to me, "I see your vans everywhere," and people turn their nose up sometimes at having sign written vans.
I'm a massive advocate of having them,
especially the older boys. They're like, "I would never have someone's name on the side of my van," blah blah blah. But you know what? It's such a valuable tool because you pay for it to be done once, and then every time you're parking it up in the town centre, someone can see it.
Yeah, it's subliminal. I mean, the only downside to it is the situation with tool theft. But in terms of branding, it's a mobile billboard for you.
I just think vans now get targeted even if they're not sign written. They'll do vans.
I don't think it matters. And in fact, I think in a way, as horrible as it sounds, I think a lot of trades are more likely to get targeted because of what they do. So particularly kitchen fitters and carpenters, I think are always going to be targeted because they know they've got thousands of pounds worth of tools. Whereas, I mean, decorators do get targeted. I've had my tools stolen before, but I think a lot of people probably think like, what's he got in the back of that? Like a few paintbrushes, like there's nothing going to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So unfortunately, I reckon a lot of people would break into an unsigned written van because they don't know what's inside it. So it's like there might be something for like good value. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've always been a massive advocate of having signed written vans because, like you say, it's free advertising, and if you're working within your local area, people consistently see that van, that company been around for years and years and years.
It's when they keep seeing it in McDonald's, though. That's the problem, Mark.
I got ad out last night. I was on the construction. Oh, what have they branded it? Construction.
You always get somebody tag you in online.
Always. What was the podcast I was on last night? What they call it? Construction.
It used to be Trust Buddies. But I don't know what
it's gone completely out of
Construction Collective.
Construction Collective.
Come on, you're
Live.
on it.
I was on it.
Mark,
12 hours ago.
Changed the name.
Because the Trust Buddies, it was like synonymous with carpentry, roofs, trusses, so they wanted to make it more trade based, so that they've changed it there. But we was on about this last night. I forgot where I was at. Oh yeah, someone come on there, stitched me up being in McDonald's again. I don't know where this vicious rumour started from. So massive advocate.
You started thinking about McDonald's.
You started it. You chucked in it's not when you see them in McDonald's. Cheers, now. Fuck's sake.
So what other questions did you have, Nath? What other topics did you want us to...
Nathan says, what is the hardest part of the job for you?
They are so cheesy, aren't they?
Yeah.
He writes it as if he's...
Don't read them like that. Read them like a normal
Say it like in a...
So what do you think is the
Jazz it up
hardest...
a bit, Mark. Come on.
So, James, what do you think is the hardest part of your job?
I'm just... I don't know, Mark. It's interesting that you said that.
I've got a way of doing that. So you told us just how bad it was on certain things with plumbing. What is the hardest bit then of your job for painting and decorating? What do you find personally difficult about the job? Is it like the paperwork side? Is it dealing with customers? What's the hardest?
Do you know what? I'm quite a personable person. I quite like meeting people, talking to people, stuff like that. But I think a lot of tradespeople, I think, would agree that the admin side of stuff is quite difficult. And I've actually enlisted someone to do that for me now, so I don't do that myself. And I think that's a massive improvement for me because it's one thing that I struggle with. And getting home, especially if you've got to go home and then sort of get your laptop out or something like that, I did find that quite hard, and it can be quite demanding, especially if you've got a family.
You've got to motivate yourself.
You've got to motivate. It's like you do your day's work, then you might go and quote jobs, and then you're going to go home and type that up or whatever it is.
It reminds me a bit of being a teacher. You've got to go to work all day, deal with a load of headache, then come home.
Yeah.
And do some more work on top of that.
Yeah. So for me, I think that's probably the hardest thing that I found. And I think a lot of people probably the same, to be fair.
I'd say all tradies on here hate paperwork. Every single. I haven't found anybody that says they love it.
No, I'm not.
Have you had anybody that says they enjoy it? There's always one outlier, isn't there?
Yeah. Go on.
You said about like your tools in your van before.
Yeah.
I actually have no idea what kind of tools you use as a painter and decorator. Is there anything that's really expensive that you use?
Yeah, of course. So when my van got broken into, it probably cost me about $4,500 in the end, because I lost about $3,000 worth of tools. Then my van sat in a workshop for about 6 weeks, so I couldn't use that. Then obviously I had to get like a hire car kind of, but a van version, and obviously didn't have any tools. So the knock-on effect was probably about $4,500. But what actually got stolen, I've dustless sanding equipment. I mean, you've got an extractor. Like the carpenters have like a Festool dustless extractor. Then we've got every attachment to that as a different sander, which probably costs £500-600. Then you've got like sprayers.
One thing I did see, because we went to the paint and decorating show, didn't we? Was the Merker.
Yeah, so that's what we have, Merker. Yeah. So we've got a Merker extractor, and then we've got probably 4 or 5 different
big monies.
Yeah, attachments to it. Sprayers, like I've got probably 4 or 5 different sprayers for different jobs. The biggest one I've got is about $3,500 just for that one sprayer.
We'll edit this bit out in case anyone targets his van.
It's not in my van. Don't worry, it's not in my van. I don't leave it in my van.
But the sprayer side of it's come on massively in the last few years, not a few years, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah,
Massively.
I mean, obviously, especially with site work, you could take that and spray probably 4 or 5 houses in a day.
Yeah.
For a mist coat kind of thing. So then that's probably paid back for itself. So it does pay for itself.
Yeah.
But the misconception that decorators just have like a brush and a dust sheet in the van.
That's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
You just have a laptop and a mouse, don't you? Literally, that's all you have, a laptop and a mouse. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't just a pack of Wilco brushes and a dust sheet that got nicked, you know what I mean? They were on the dashboard.
Are you wasting time? I think that some of you probably are, and I have a solution for you. Nobody wants to do any type of admin. Now, I have a solution for you, and it is called Tradify. It's a fully automated job scheduling, invoicing, and quoting all in one place. Now, that software is going to save you 12 hours a week, and all by using a simple software solution. Now, you can try it for 2 weeks, absolutely free, no cards needed, and you'll even get support in person from Tradify themselves. Now, when you're done, you can always come back to me and thank me, but just enjoy the extra 12 hours that you're going to gain from just using the software.
So we do have a lot of expensive tools, and obviously, all jokes aside, tool theft is such a massive problem. And we were talking about this before we came on air. It's until the police really crack down on it, I can't see it really changing.
I honestly think, though, that all manufacturers now should be putting at least serial numbers on there. And I know that, like Milwaukee now have got that one key where you can, log all your tools and where they were last seen and stuff like that. But especially now you've got stuff like the Apple AirTags, there should be some way
something like an equivalent.
Integrating it into products. But then there's a database somewhere with you upload your tools. And then as soon as one gets nicked, you can go on there and highlight that it's nicked. Obviously, you can lock it out or brick it. But also, if somebody else finds a tool at a market, they can put the serial in. And you get notified saying this is where it's been seen.
The thing is, there's always that demand for cheap tools, isn't there?
It's always like car boot sales.
It's car boot
like
sales, moody little markets, or some crackhead pulling up outside the pub with a boot full of fucking DeWalt stuff or Milwaukee stuff. People will always buy it. When that's
the shame.
Take
really,
that, they take that away from it, and you sort of stopping the problem. But
do you know what though? I think as well, the vehicle manufacturers need to start doing a lot more about it, because it's not like they're not aware that it's a problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my van got broken into that I realised how fucking easy it must be to do.
But look at Range Rover. You can't even get them insured now in London, or if you can,
it's 50 grand excess, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I saw this on Dave's story the other day.
So I spoke to Dave about that, and I've spoke to him this morning actually. So he's got
He'll probably
Range Rover
now
Sport.
we've talked about.
Again. So he's got Range Rover Sport. I think he was paying something like
Dave Bishop.
Yeah, he's got.
He's the unluckiest guy ever.
Yeah, honestly. So he's got Range Rover Sport, and his insurance last year, for argument's sake, was £800. He just had a premium come through for 3 grand to insure his Range Rover.
You can't get them insured in London.
No,
I think every day in like Kensington and Chelsea, something like 30 Range Rover Sports were getting stolen.
So he's managed now. I spoke to him this morning. He's managed to go through a certain company, wherever he's got it for about 900 quid. But because I rung him up and said to him, the problem now is the arse has fallen out the market. Your 20 grand Range Rover now is worth about
Well, you
11 grand.
You won't be able to sell them.
Yeah, because no one will want them.
He said he tried. Was it We Buy Any Car? They offered him 9 grand and he paid 20 for it last. So it's just depreciation is.
Yeah, because no one will insure them, so you've got to get rid of them.
Everyone's getting rid of them, so no one wants to buy them.
But it's everything, isn't it? If they're not getting nicked, you see the videos in London now, don't you, of the boys on scooters pulling up to people, ripping watches off their arms in the middle of the day. Where's it going to start? It's just lawless England, isn't it?
It is, and again, unless it gets cracked down on, there's nothing's going to change because to the thieves, it's low risk, isn't it? Because it's high reward and low risk.
Yeah.
You're going to get a slap on the wrist at best.
Yeah.
So until they clamp down on it, exactly.
You just get police reference in a minute.
Yeah.
Should we go to the final thought then?
Yeah. Bit of advice for people either coming into it or
you can either plug yourself shamelessly.
No, do you know what? I will give some advice for sort of the younger generation coming in, which is if you're joining the trade now, try not to get too despondent too quickly. It is hard. There's a lot to learn. And chances are people are going to take the piss out of you, rip you up a little bit. That is natural. But if you stick with it, we're in the middle of like a skill shortage at the minute. So as an employer who benefits from CITB funding, I've been asked to be part of a certain training board and stuff like that, a program to address the fact that we have like a national skill shortage at the minute. And an interesting fact, particularly within my trade, is that something like 60% of decorators now are over 50. So if you're a young lad that's coming into it, forget all your mates that are doing the crypto. They think they're going to be millionaires, driving Teslas and stuff like that. Pick up a brush, mate. Pick up a brush because, in sort of 10, 20 years, you might be the only guy in town who's a decorator.
I mean, the only thing I see on the horizon, a bit of a black cloud for apprentices now, is because I still believe we're going to go into a recession, is that it will become harder for people, even harder than what it is now, to actually pick up an apprenticeship. And
it's hard for the employer. It's a bit of a weird one because it's hard for them to get a placement, but it's also getting harder and harder for people to find apprentices. So this is what, at the minute, needs addressing.
Yeah. Do you say the CITB, you're on with them, a scheme?
Yeah, so basically I'm now on to my third apprentice now.
Right, okay.
So we obviously get the funding through CITB, so we pay a levy and we get the funding essentially from them. I've been asked to take part in a programme to kind of address what's going on because it is hard, it is really difficult, and there's a lot of pitfalls.
So we put that TikTok out, didn't we? Which is like it's done over 500,000 views on it, where nobody could agree on apprentices, because obviously when Pete was on, Pete was saying, look, I felt like because I had a good apprenticeship that when I actually qualified that I owed the guy that put me through because he's slowing down the job, he did all this stuff.
So you're sort of paying him back.
So you're paying him back. But the comments went off because people are like, you don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
They get money from the government. And obviously you're the first person on that's sort of said, well, yeah, we are part of this scheme. So sort of, Does it
It doesn't pay, no. And this is basically where we're at the minute. Like, I put this into perspective now. The college that our guys go to, Solihull College, because they've stopped doing it in Leamington now, is in complete disarray at the minute. They've had people quit. The teachers they've had various different people. They've got someone who's actually a bricklayer now teaching the decorating course, and so what's happened is these guys were supposed to finish in June. Now, bearing in mind that every day that they're at college, they're on a full day's pay that I'm paying. They were supposed to finish in June, and because of everything that's happened, we're halfway through January, and they're still having to go 1 day a week, and I'm paying for that day. So you've got to bear in mind as well that the employer, they're investing their time, especially like you said then, when they start, there's not much that they can do apart from push a broom around or hoover or something like that. And a lot of the time, actually, like you said, you're slowing yourself down to try and teach them. So if I'm going and I'm doing this and this and this, but then I've got him, what's he doing? Oh, mate, don't do that. You need to go over there and do that. And it's like...
Because the flip side to that, when we were looking in the comments, was people saying, oh, yeah, but... you're paying them peanuts. You're getting free work.
You're not, though. You're not.
But in essence, you're not, because you're paying.
You're not.
You're paying for somebody to just
stand to teach watch. Someone. Yeah. So obviously, I've got a new lad start with me in September. He's fresh out of school. He's 16, and for the first however many 6 months or something, you can't charge for what they're doing, because what you're going to do, add another 50 quid a day or whatever for someone to carry a few dust sheets and, you know, push and it's all just, until they've got that teaching, they can't really do anything. So
because I think there's this big misconception that people like you that are employing apprentices get some magical money tree.
No. And do you know what, the money that we get from the government is not even a scratch on what it costs to put an apprentice through. So they,
especially if you've got to kit them out with tools.
Exactly. And obviously this has just gone up as well, the sort of minimum wage or whatever. I've always paid the lads that have worked for me slightly above, because they're not idiots. They've got mates who are working in McDonald's. They're probably getting like nearly £10 an hour. So you can't expect someone to turn up and be like, I'll pay you £3 an hour and I expect you to work, you know, 9 hours a day or whatever.
Tax,
do you understand what I mean?
More
so
NI,
No 16-year-old is going to turn up and do a full day's graft for like 20 quid, are they? Do you know what I mean? It's just not realistic. So I've always paid them slightly above. This year it's actually gone up again. But the funding that we get from the government is all done based on them being paid that £3 or whatever it is an hour. So when you're paying them a realistic wage, it's not going anywhere really. It's helpful when it comes, but it's not regular money that's just dropping into your hand. And actually it's staged. So you get some at the start, you get a little bit on the way through, and then the big payment comes when they actually pass. So you're investing in them, hoping that they pass. If they don't pass, I don't know what you're going to get from
What about the other two?
Some people might get halfway through and go, this is...
Yeah, exactly. So you've wasted 2 years or whatever teaching someone who's then gone, do you know what?
Well, what
I can't
about the other two? You say you got 3 new ones. So what about the other 2? Are they still with you?
So the other 2, they're still with me. But they've, like I said, they were supposed to finish in June, and they're still going now.
They're still the Solihull College on Blossomfield Road. Is that one?
It might be.
Next to Alderbrook.
That's the one. Yeah. So they're still going to college now, even though they were supposed to have finished in June or whatever. And they're like 3rd year. I class them as like qualified decorators now. So they're not on £10 a day. Do you know what I mean? They're on a realistic wage. And every day that they're at college, I'm having to pay, which I do. Do you know what I mean? But then the idea that it's kind of like, I'm just creaming it. I can't wait for them to finish.
When they're finished, do you know if they're going to stay with you?
I'd love it if they did. Do you know what I mean?
You haven't had that conversation with it?
Well, I've had the conversation. If I'm completely honest, I've had the conversation. I'd hope they will, but obviously there's always going to be an element of doubt because I mean I've looked after them. Don't get me wrong. I know I've bought them a van each. They've got they've got a setup of tools. They've had, one of them went to Thailand for like 6 weeks last year. I've let them, live their life while they're young.
This was another thing in the comments. Well, pay them what they deserve and they won't leave.
Yeah, well, I am.
But then at the same time, they want to go and settle their own.
But this is what I mean. So, it's all very well. I'd love it if they, honestly, I'd love it if they stayed. But realistically, you can't force someone who's 20, 21 years old.
I need a piss.
Can't tie them down, can you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you'd like to think their loyalty. There's that they're definitely not going to, or they definitely aren't tied into it. But you'd like to think they're going to give back that little bit.
Yeah, I'd love, and don't get me wrong, they're good lads. They've put the work in to get to where they are. But again, the situation is what it is. I can't chain them to my van and make sure that they don't leave. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
would you be gutted if they did go, or would you wish them well?
I mean, part of me would. Yeah, if I'm honest, there's part of me that would be gutted because I feel like I've invested a lot in them.
Yeah, you have.
However, I'm a realist, and I know that they're 20 years old. They're probably going to want to go and do a bit of travelling or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
but it's a divisive subject.
It's probably quite interesting to listen to the pros and cons of each of them.
That's why I thought as soon as you mentioned the apprentices, then I was like, right, okay, just dispel the myth that it's some sort of like.
It's not, and obviously, there'll be a lot of people like myself who've invested. And like you said, sometimes people may decide halfway through they don't want to do it. And so you've kind of wasted that time, haven't you?
Yeah.
And if you think about what you were just saying about there's apprentices who are crying out for an apprenticeship and they can't get on it, then that's also not only wasted your time, but it means that somebody else, you've taken their opportunity, haven't you? So, I don't know.
Yeah, that's your advice then.
A good advice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Definitely.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate.
Well, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, buddy. Enjoyed that. Nice one.